Story title: Necklace of Fate. The bustling streets of Lagos were alive with the usual chaos. Cars honking, hawkers shouting, and the hum of a city that never slept. On a particularly humid evening, a crowded bus drove along the Third Mainland Bridge, its passengers tired after a long day. Among them was Temi, a young woman with a quiet grace, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing the delicate gold necklace around her neck. It was no ordinary piece of jewelry. It bore her name, deeply carved, a gift from her late mother. To Temi, it was a talisman, a connection to a past she cherished. The bus jerked to a sudden halt. Men with their faces covered, armed with machetes and guns, stormed in, their voices harsh and commanding. Confusion erupted. Passengers screamed. Hands shot up in surrender, and valuables were thrown into a sack. Temi's heart pounded as one of the robbers pulled her necklace, the chain snapping painfully against her skin. She begged, but her pleas were drowned in the chaos. The robbers vanished as quickly as they had appeared, leaving behind a trail of fear and loss. Years passed. Temi rebuilt her life, but the memory of that night lingered like a shadow. She moved on, or so she thought, until she met Ishola. Ishola was unlike anyone Temi had ever met. They first crossed paths at a friend's wedding, where he caught her eye from across the room. He was tall, with a confident stride and a smile that could light up the darkest room. When he approached her, his voice was smooth, his words carefully chosen. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders," he said, his eyes searching hers. "Care to share?" Temi was taken aback by his directness, but found herself opening up to him. They talked for hours, laughing and sharing stories as if they had known each other for years. By the end of the night, Temi felt a spark she hadn't felt in a long time. Their romance blossomed quickly. Ishola was attentive, always knowing just what to say to make her smile. He took her on unforgettable outings, picnics at the beach, late-night drives through the city, and even a weekend getaway to a serene resort in Calabar. Temi felt alive in a way she hadn't in years. One evening, Ishola surprised her with a candlelit dinner at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the Lagos skyline. The city lights twinkled below as they shared a meal and talked about their dreams. "You're different, Temi," Ishola said, his voice soft. "You make me want to be a better man." Temi's heart swelled with emotion. For the first time in a long time, she felt truly happy. "You sounded like you've been a terrible man all your life," Temi said with a little laugh. Both of them laughed at this exchange for a while as the fun-filled evening crawled on. But as their relationship deepened, Temi began to notice small things that didn't quite add up. Ishola was often vague about his past and never mentioned any of his family members or his hometown. And there were times when he would disappear for days without explanation, only to resurface with a flourish, and backed with a basket full of tales of adventure and travels as a result of his job demands. Still, Temi brushed off her concerns, convinced that their love was strong enough to overcome anything. Then came the night that changed everything. They were at a cozy eatery on the island, one of the high-end ones, enjoying a quiet evening together. Ishola handed her a small brilliant-colored box, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. "For you," he said, his voice soft. Temi opened it, her breath catching in her throat. There it was, her necklace, the one stolen years ago. The gold glinted under the light, her name still carved deeply, same way, same font, same design, same radiance unmistakably. Her heart raced, not with joy, but with a creeping dread. She looked up at Ishola, her mind racing. "How? Why? Where did you get this?" she asked, her voice trembling as she tried hard to remain calm. Ishola's smile faltered. "I found it at an antique shop. I thought it was unique, just like you. Your name on it was what caught my eye." But Temi knew better. The necklace was one of a kind, and the odds of it resurfacing in such a way were impossible. She said nothing, her mind a storm of suspicion and fear. That night, she lay awake, the necklace clutched in her hand, memories of the robbery flooding back. The entire reel of events kept playing on repeat mode in her mind's screen. The masked men, the violence, the loss. And now Ishola. Could he have been one of them? Unable to bear the weight of her suspicions alone, Temi confided in her elder brother Tund, a stern but caring man who had always been her rock. Tund listened intently, his expression darkening as she recounted the robbery and the reappearance of the necklace. "This is serious, Temi," Tun said, his voice low. "If Ishola was involved in that robbery, he's dangerous. You need to be careful." Tun was willing to work with Temi to work out a way to handle this dicey situation, and they had already gotten off to a good and promising start. But before Tun could do much to help her take any further action, he was found unconscious in his apartment 2 days later and was rushed to the hospital. In spite of every treatment, Tun was not getting any better. He couldn't even recognize her nor remember anything. He only moped in a fixed direction, hearing nothing, seeing nothing, and saying nothing. The doctor said it was a heart attack, but Temi couldn't shake off the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Tun had been in perfect health and had always been a happy-go-lucky fellow. Her grief was compounded by a growing sense of mistrust. Was Tun's present predicament, his condition of health, connected to her discovery? Had it got anything to do with Ishola? Or was her mind playing tricks on her? Was there a possibility that the necklace Ishola got her was indeed a different one, and she was just imagining things? Questions. Questions and yet more questions, but answers were very scarce. Temi turned to her best friend Neka for support. Neka, ever the pragmatist, urged her to go to the police. "You can't let this go, Temi. If Ishola is who you think he is, he needs to face justice. This is more than a coincidence, Temi. Use your head. Think." Together, they consulted a lawyer, Mr. Ozua, a sharp and experienced man who promised to help them build a case. The meeting held in Mr. Ozua's chambers in a quiet corner of Festac town, and the lawyer assured her that her worries were over. But as they began gathering evidence, strange things started happening. Neka was involved in a hit-and-run accident, leaving her in a coma. Mr. Ozua, without any indication, abruptly withdrew from the case, citing personal reasons. And Temi started receiving anonymous threats warning her to drop the matter in her best interest. What exactly was going on? She thought. The city, once familiar, now felt like a web of danger. Temi's resolve wavered, but she couldn't let go. She decided to report Ishola to the police, despite the risks. But the night before she was to meet with the authorities, she woke to the sound of footsteps in her apartment. Her heart raced as she grabbed her mobile phone, only to find the screen broken and the phone unresponsive. The air grew cold, and a shadow loomed in her doorway. "You should have let it go," a voice hissed, a voice that wasn't Ishola's. Terrified, Temi fled her apartment, seeking refuge in a nearby church. The pastor, Pastor Mark, a kind-eyed man, listened to her story and offered her shelter. "There are forces at work here," he said gravely. "Not all of them are human, and this has something to do with someone close to you." Someone close to me? Temi thought. Who could it be?
She was really troubled, but she decided to let it slide for the moment.
Pastor Mark, a man of deep faith and spiritual insight, recognized the spiritual warfare surrounding Temi. He conducted deliverance prayers for her, anointing her with oil and invoking God's divine protection. Temi, who was not used to any of these religious processes, overwhelmed by the weight of her past and the darkness that had pursued her, broke down in tears. She confessed her sins, her mistakes, and her desire to turn away from her old life. "God's mercy is greater than any darkness," the pastor assured her. "You are now under his protection. No weapon formed against you shall prosper." Temi's world unraveled further when she discovered that Ishola had ties to a notorious cult, one rumored to wield supernatural influence. The necklace, it seemed, was more than just a stolen trinket. It was a symbol of her connection to him, a bond that couldn't easily be broken. The cult's members were determined to silence her, using fear and dark rituals to keep her from exposing the truth. But how did she get in the picture? She kept wondering. The entire thing seemed to her like a well-crafted script, starting from the robbery to the chance meeting with Ishola. Or was it really a chance meeting, or still part of the scenes in the play? She wondered. The more Temi tried to connect the dots, the more dots that kept springing up. She discovered that she was even more confused than she initially thought she was. In a final desperate act, Temi confronted Ishola. They met at a secluded spot by the lagoon, the moon casting an eerie glow on the water. "Why are you doing this?" Temi demanded, her voice shaking. "Why can't you just let me go?" Ishola's face was a mask of conflict. I never wanted to hurt you, Temi. But some things are bigger than us. The cult, they won't let me walk away. And now they won't let you either. You won't understand. Some things are too deep for you to understand. There is something in you that is unique. It's about the star, the glory. It's spiritual. I am so sorry, I don't know how best to explain it to a non-initiate. But simply put, they won't let you go. I am sorry. Temi's fear turned to fury. They won't let me go. Why? What is my crime? I don't know them. I don't have any connection with them, man. Sorry, Temi, Ishola interrupted. You do. You do have a connection with the Brotherhood. Temi's mouth unconsciously snapped open as she demanded. Me? How? It is all in the necklace. The necklace? I've always worn the necklace since my childhood. Temi replied. It was actually given to me by my grandmother. She is late now. There is something about that necklace, Temi. Ishola cut in. In fact, no need hiding it anymore. Your grandmother came to us for wealth and influence, and she initiated you into our brotherhood with that necklace. She never knew she would die early. She had exchanged your womanhood for great wealth and glory. I am so sorry. Temi, you are not meant to marry or have a family. Your late grandmother's plan was that you'll be so wealthy to make her enjoy her old age in so much wealth. But as an unmarried woman, that robbery in the bus was actually because of this necklace. We wanted to have it back before it gets into the wrong hands. When we got it back, we later realized it is as good as useless without your glory. It has to be worn by you for its power to truly manifest. That was when I was brought into the picture as your boyfriend. I swear I never wanted to do it, but you cannot say no to the Brotherhood and still breathe an extra day. We are also aware of Pastor Mark, and he has been penciled down for removal. Temi held her head as she tried to calm herself to avoid doing something stupid. She had always adored her late grandmother, and she had never hidden the fact that Temi was her favorite grandchild. To think she would mortgage her future for affluence and power was too much for Temi to take. Gathering her courage in both hands, Temi turned to Ishola, and keeping her voice low and cold, she said, Well, Ishola, I thank you, but I thank you not. Thank God I met the pastor. Thank God I now know who I am. You and your evil brotherhood can go ahead and do your worst for all I care. You can control the lives of others, but I won't let you control me. And I won't let you, Ishola, control me anymore. You've caused me more than enough trauma. In a moment of clarity, she realized that the necklace was the key. She took the necklace and, before Ishola could stop her, threw it into the lagoon, breaking the symbolic tie between them. Ishola's eyes widened in panic as he screamed, but before he could move, the ground beneath him seemed to shift, then a crack and suddenly a wide hole. Ishola stumbled, falling into the water, which churned violently as if alive. Temi watched in horror as Ishola was pulled under, his screams swallowed by the depths. The police later declared Ishola missing after a while, but Temi knew the truth. Temi, now free from the cult's grip, focused on rebuilding her life. She moved to a quiet town in the countryside, far from the chaos of Lagos. She started a small business, selling household and kitchen items, and found solace in the simplicity of her new life. But the past was never far behind. One evening, as she closed her shop, she noticed a man lingering outside. He was tall, with a familiar restlessness in his eyes. Her heart skipped a beat. Ishola, she whispered, her voice trembling. There was silence. Ishola, she repeated, still silence. Then the man stepped into the light, revealing a face she didn't recognize. No, he said, his voice calm but firm. I am not Ishola, but he is my blood brother in the same brotherhood. Watching to see how she would react to that, and not seeing any visible sign of fear, he continued. But I've been sent to warn you. The brotherhood hasn't forgotten, and neither have they forgiven. It is still a debt, and you are fast approaching payday. We are the Brotherhood of Silence. We don't relent, we don't forgive, we don't forget. Temi's blood ran cold, but she still struggled to keep a bold face. The shadows of her past had found her once more. But this time she was ready. She had faced them before, and she would face them again and again. The necklace was gone, but the fight was far from over. With her faith as her shield and her prayers, and those of Pastor Mark as her strength, Temi stood firm, ready to confront whatever darkness lay ahead. Meanwhile, A high-powered investigation had commenced into Ishola's sudden disappearance. The police, under pressure to solve the case, interviewed Temi multiple times. Journalists, eager for a sensational story, hounded her with questions. But Temi stood firm, her newfound faith giving her strength. She cooperated fully with the authorities, providing all the information she had. The investigation revealed Ishola's ties to the notorious cult, as well as his involvement in the robbery years ago. Witnesses came forward, confirming Temi's story. Forensic evidence linked Ishola to other crimes, painting a picture of a man deeply entrenched in the dark world of violence, rituals, and corruption. Despite the intense scrutiny, Temi emerged clean and not guilty of Ishola's disappearance. The police concluded that he had likely fled to avoid prosecution, though rumors of his supernatural demise persisted. Temi felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. She resolved to embrace a new life of righteousness, free from the shadows of her past. She felt a type of peace she never knew existed anywhere on earth. Months later, Temi's business flourished, and she became a pillar of her new community. She shared her story with others, offering hope to those trapped in their own battles with powers of darkness. The pastor's words echoed in her heart. God's mercy is greater than any darkness. Despite her newfound peace, threats continued to come from Ishola's evil brotherhood. Anonymous calls and letters warned Temi that they would have their revenge soon. But she stood firm, her faith unshaken. One morning, as Temi prepared for the day, she turned on the news on her TV. The headline caught her attention. Police bust notorious clandestine group behind high-profile crimes in Lagos and environs. Her heart raced as she listened to the report. Right on the screen was the face of the same man who had come to her shop to threaten and warn her a few months back. Temi felt like screaming for joy. As the report said, the police had conducted a massive operation, arresting key members of the Brotherhood that had terrorized Lagos and its environs for so long. Weapons, stolen goods, and evidence of their dark rituals were seized. The news anchor praised the police for their bravery and dedication. Overwhelmed with joy, Temi fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you, Lord," she whispered. "You have fought for me against forces too mighty for me." She picked up her phone and called the pastor. "God has done it," she exclaimed, her voice filled with excitement. "He has delivered me from the hands of my enemies." The pastor shouted with joy. "This is the power of faith, Temi. When we trust in God, He moves mountains on our behalf." For the first time in years, Temi felt completely free. As she walked home from her shop later that evening, the stars seemed to shine brighter, and the air felt lighter. The accursed necklace of fate was gone, and with it, the shadows of her past. Temi knew that her journey was far from over, but she was ready to face the future with courage and faith. She had faced the horror of her past and emerged stronger, though not unscarred. And as the Lagos sun set, casting the city in a golden glow, Temi took a deep breath, ready to step into a future unburdened by the shadows of yesterday. Just then her phone rang. It was the hospital. Her heart skipped a beat as she answered. "Hello. Good evening, Miss Temi," the voice on the other end said. "We're calling to inform you that your brother, Tund, is recovering faster than expected. He's awake and has been asking to see you." Temi's eyes filled with tears of relief. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'll be there right away." She ended the call, her heart swelling with gratitude. The nightmare was finally over, and a new chapter was beginning.